Okay, thank you everyone for joining this third series of the Healthy Soils, Healthy Foods Agroecology webinar series, which is co-organized by the Alliance for Food Sovereignty in Africa and the Seed and Knowledge Initiative. This is the third series of this webinar, and as we usually do, for those who haven't joined us before, I'm going to ask our organizing committee, AFSA and Sky, to briefly please introduce your organizations so that everybody knows in the context in which this is being organized. Charles, would you like to go ahead with a little intro about AFSA?
Thank you very much. My name is Charles Tumuhe. I work for the Alliance for Food Sovereignty in Africa. AFSA, which was launched in 2011. AFSA is an alliance of civil society actors that advocate for food sovereignty and agroecology in Africa. AFSA comprises of 40 members, and these are networks of networks in 50 of the 55 African countries. And what we do at AFSA is to promote African-led solutions, merging traditional knowledge with natural resource control. At AFSA, also, we champion agroecology for number 1, climate action, number 2, farmer managed seed systems, number 3, land rights and healthy soils, and number 4, sustainable food and nutritional systems. I'm going to share our website in the chat just in case you need more information about AFSA. Thank you, Shasha.
Thank you very much, Charles. And then I would like now please Stephanie Aubin to go ahead with telling us a little bit about the Seed and Knowledge Initiative.
Okay, thanks very much, Sasha, and good morning, everyone. So the Seed and Knowledge Initiative, SKY, is a regional partnership of 15 organizations, very diverse, from local NGOs, CBOs, farmer organizations, research institutions, national networks. And these partners came together in 2014 to promote farmer-led seed systems in the context of agroecology and food sovereignty in Southern Africa. So we work both at the grassroots level, supporting the farmers there, but also at the national, regional, and global levels, doing some advocacy work at those levels. And since 2020, we've been collaborating with AFSA to jointly design and implement this Healthy Soil, Healthy Food initiative. We have 6 SKY partners who are hosting a Healthy Soil, Healthy Food Center, namely SFHC in Malawi, Kasisi in Zambia, Poret and Suro, and Chinika in Zimbabwe, and Bawach in South Africa. So these 6 partners are leading the Healthy Soil, Healthy Food movement in Southern Africa. And the regional team, we just provide coordination support. So as Charles did for AFSA, I'm going to put the website, the link to the website for SKY, if you want to know more about us and our involvement in the Healthy Soil, Healthy Food initiative. Thanks, Sasha.
Thank you for this, Stephanie and Charles. And I'm just going to briefly screen for those who have just joined, or for everybody to just be cognizant of this calendar. We are holding this HSHF webinar series, which is really focusing on farm trials, agroecological techniques to increment the evidence of agroecology as a system that works and that can be widely uptaken by African farmers for food sovereignty. So we have these sessions on a fortnightly basis every Friday at the same hour, 12 East African time. And you can see the next series will be on the 24th of November. I will be speaking of that at the end of the session. As I introduce our themes for today and our speakers, I would like all our esteemed speakers that we have lined up for today to please have their cameras on. And it would be great if you can keep your cameras on as you go ahead with your presentations. In terms of today's session, we will be starting first by an opening on what constitutes agroecological practices and techniques within open seed breeding and multiplication that enables to ensure genetic diversity and with what results? To discuss this topic, we have invited Charles Nkoma from the Community Technology Development Trust in Zambia to share his experience. From then, we will be moving on to Kenya, where Mercy Ambani will be telling us about examples of agroecological practices for conserving traditional seed and indigenous planting materials, very inspiring findings that are emanating from her research on the ground there. Flowing from this, we will then move to Malawi, where Frederick Sanga from the Biodiversity Conservation Initiative will be telling us about community seed banks, how they're set up, how are they operated, to ensure wide availability and preservation of diverse seed materials. There'll be lots of learnings and conversations around this. To conclude this series, because there's so much, the session, because there's so much interest about this, and I think the science is a bit new for some of us, we will be having like a quick dive into what constitutes sound agroecological methods to inoculate seeds with microorganisms to ensure a robust start of the plant. This we'll do through the prism of a little video, and then we will encourage conversation around these approaches. I would like to, before we start, just touch on some brief housekeeping for today. We haven't asked you yet to please drop a little word of introduction about yourself by going onto the Kobo Toolbox link, which I'm hoping Charles can share now in the chat box. It's always nice if you can share who you are in the chat box, but for registration purposes and to track people, it's easier to also please enter your information on the Kobo Toolbox that's being shared now. A last item of housekeeping, and Charles, if you don't mind, please screen sharing our first poll. We added this to our proceedings because we think it's so interesting to know who's in the room. A quick poll to, the heading is wrong here, sorry, to understand who the actors are, which category of stakeholders you belong to. So you'll see the poll showing on your screen, and you need to please indicate under which category you fall. You see there's quite a few stakeholder categories there. We'll leave this poll open a few minutes, and we can share it in a minute, I suppose, because yeah, no, I'll let it run, Charles, because people are still taking a bit of time to complete it, so we can always look at it later. I think moving ahead now, while the poll is being completed, I'm going to ask Charles Nkoma to please be ready to go into his presentation. Charles, are you happy that I share, or do you want to manage at your own pace?
It's fine, you can share.
Okay, so I'll stop share. I'll bring your PowerPoint up. In, I want to briefly introduce Charles from CFDT. So you will be starting by sharing with us the recommended agroecological practices and techniques in open seed breeding and multiplication. A few words about Charles. So Charles is currently the director at the Community Technology Development Trust in Zambia. He has many years' experience of working on farmer seed systems in the country and in Southern Africa. He holds a BSc degree in agriculture from the University of Zambia and a master's degree in conservation and utilization of plant genetic resources from the University of Birmingham. So CFDT as an organization works with farmers to improve their livelihoods based on the diversity of local fruit plants and seeds that are available in their communities. So let me go back to your slides. I just want to ask people, is the poll still showing on their screen at this stage? Organizing committee, if the screen is still showing on, if the poll is still showing on the screen, I think we should end it. How is it for you, Charles, Steph?
Baron?
I don't see it on my screen. I think it was stopped. Charles?
It didn't stop, but I think we have gotten
okay.
up to 70% response rate. That should be good enough.
Okay, we're going to end it, and I don't know if people can see the responses, but we have essentially, just so everybody can see. Am I sharing it? Can you see
Yes,
it?
Yes, we can see it.
Yeah.
We can see
Right.
the analysis.
So we can see that basically we have 27% farmers in the room and 33% members of NGOs, CSOs. And the difference being made by international organizations, researchers, trainers. And we have some donor representation. Okay, great. I think this is useful. I think it's very nice for you speakers to know who you actually are addressing. So you've got a nice mixed group there. I'm just going to close this window because it was bothering me. And I think, Charles, over to you.
Sorry, Sasha, somebody was saying in the chat that the interpretation is not working.
Okay, Ludo, are you
Yeah, it's working for those who can hear in English.
Interpretation in the French booth is working.
Can I
So that you can come
start?
We just want to make sure, Charles, that your presentation is going to be received in French.
Pour le moment, la traduction fonctionne.
Ça marche pas, Elisabeth, merci. Okay, Charles, can we have a heads up from your side? I can't see whether Ludo is in the room because I'm screen sharing.
Yeah, the interpreter is working. My microphone is on, so
Sorry, well, we just
on my side there's no problem.
Oui, bonjour.
Important.
La traduction fonctionne chez moi.
Merci, Jean-Charles. Charles, can we get a heads up from you in terms of what's happening with the interpretation?
I think it's fine, working fine for me. I don't know. It could be an individual issue. Yeah.
Ok. Donc pour les francophones qui, pour une raison ou pour une autre, ne semblent pas avoir
So
l'accès
for the French
en bas de votre écran,
speaking
cliquez sur la sphère, la petite sphère, et vous devez activer pour vous-même l'interprétation
participants, you have to click on
en mettant français.
the globe
Ok.
and
Donc,
choose
ça, c'est bon,
French.
mais ça a vérifié que ça marchait, donc c'est à vous de
I
l'activer
hope
de votre côté.
it works.
Donc, on va
Apparently it's
essayer.
working. You have to activate it.
Please go ahead. Charles, we're good to go. You have 10 minutes.
Yes, thank you very much. So I start with seed sovereignty, because all that I'm going to present is really trying to explain this simple term. So seed forms the basis of food security as we know, but seed security entails sovereignty by farmers to have the freedom to choose space, policy space, and the appropriate legislative frameworks, which should not deter them from doing what they are good at doing. Next. Next slide, please. I'm going to start with the aspect of capacity building. You jumped one slide.
Sorry, Charles. Yeah. Is this right?
Yes, I'm going to start with the issue of capacity building because the starting point for the farmers is to be fully aware of the diversity that exists in their community, and there are a number of tools that can be used to do this. We have used the diversity wheel quite a lot. It's much easier for the farmers to analyze the status of the diversity in their community. They're also going to document of diversity that they have, both in crops and varieties, and also the threats to that diversity. They produce also biodiversity registers, which they keep on updating at regular intervals, just to understand the levels of the diversity in their community. And because we want, they need to continuously improve their varieties, they also learn a little bit more how to set their objectives with regards to that aspect, how to deal with aspects of what traits to address, which traits can be combined in one variety, and so on and so on. And they learn various selection approaches and how to evaluate their work, and also dissemination of this information to fellow farmers and others. Next. Yeah, so once all that is done, then the farmers can do real good community multiplication practices, because they will be multiplying seed that deserves to be multiplied because it's inadequate in terms of quantities in the community. Also because it happens to be popular in the community, and also that when the seed is multiplied, it will be utilized, and thereafter this process becomes like just a regular system. But also when doing these multiplications, over the years we have now evolved to adopt various AE practices to move away from the use of chemicals, from all the negative practices. So through the network within the SKY initiative, we have partners that provide this kind of information. So now we combine biodiversity and AE. Next. Now, that was just pure multiplication, where the farmers grow seed as it is without changing anything. All they do is proper management practices, as much as possible, utilizing AE practices. Now, in terms of developing their varieties beyond what they have, we have three approaches that the farmers undertake. The participatory variety enhancement, which is used by the farmers now to improve their existing varieties, or even just to restore. Many of them complain that their varieties have tended to be lost, have tended to lose some of their attractive traits. So this is used for purpose. And then we have the participatory variety selection, where farmers just observe all the varieties that are recommended for them in their area, to make sure that of those, which ones are most suitable. And once they arrive at that, they go into multiplications. Then, of course, there is the more sophisticated one, which is a variety development. One, in most cases, farmers work with breeders. It's intended to create new varieties, sometimes by making crosses between different varieties, to create more diversity available for them to select from. Next.
3 minutes left, Charles. Thank you.
2. Okay, so just a bit more information on the evaluation. Like I said, farmers work to maximize the potential of local traditional modern varieties that they like in accordance with their desired variety characteristic. So this is quite popular amongst the farmers because it's used to clean up, if I use that term, their varieties. Next. Next.
Okay, you skipping that slide because I don't know if there's a lag.
Yeah. So
okay,
I've talked about this. You can go to the next. This is also just a variety selection and also the PVD. What you are seeing farmers doing there is normally what happens at research stations. We also do include traits that are important for farmers without waiting for the final variety to be developed. So farmers do things like the cookabilities and the taste and everything while in the process of making these selections. Next. Now, for all these happenings, it means that seed is moving up and down to the farmers' fields, and then it has to be looked after from one season to another, because these processes I've talked about sometimes take years, 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, or even more for PVD, for example. So farmers now have community seed banks, and we have facilitated the establishment of community seed banks in the area they work, so that those breeding cycles can happen without losing the seed. And also the seed bank is used to store all the diversity that is found in their areas, and also contribute to future breeding programs for the farmers. The seed banks are not necessarily made for the communities. The concept was originally there before even these modern structures. So the process of construction also involved the communities, so that we can build ownership in these structures and link them to the field activities. Okay, so I think this is no, it's not the end. Just a few end notes to explain a little bit more. Yes, next slide. Yes, it's the end notes. So farm seed seeds are the main source of planting material for many smallholder farmers. These smallholder farmers, most of whom are women, supply up to 90% of all the seeds planted in a given country. That's true for many countries in Africa. Unfortunately, most national systems only invest in the formal system. In other words, resources go to the other component of the seed system, leaving out the main component. Agrobiodiversity, together with AI practices, provide climate resilience for farmers. Resilience not just for climate change, but also for social economics, because the costs of productions go down quite drastically. And also agrobiodiversity contributes to nutrition. So there is a self-inbuilt nutrition security because of the diversity that these communities rely on. Thank you very much. I think this is the last slide.
Thank you so much, Charles, for this excellent overview of how working together with farmers, seeds multiplication and diversity is happening. We're going to be hearing more about community seed banks with Frederick a bit in a little while. Just to tell people that we will be hearing all our speakers first, and that we will then give time for a Q&A and an exchange with the speakers at the end of all the input received. So long, please do not hesitate to drop any question you have in the Q&A box, also at the bottom of your screen. And I'd like to invite you, Charles, to just try and respond to those questions already showing there. And the question from Ariette, I think that can also be addressed by Frederick when he presents just now. Now we're going to be moving on to our next presenter, who hails from Kenya. And moving from breeding and multiplication, we will take a deeper dive into efficient technologies for conserving traditional and indigenous seeds. We are joined for this by Mercy Ombani. She is a program officer with the Kenyan Seed Savers Network. Mercy holds an MSc in Agricultural Extension from the Egerton University in Kenya and has been working with grassroots farmers for more than 7 years. Mercy has recently completed research on traditional seed preservation methods used by Kenyan ethnic tribes, and this is what she will be presenting to us today. I just want to also remind participants that all the content that you seeing today is available, already organized for you in a Google Drive. We will be dropping the Google Drive link in the chat box so that you can access the resources both in French and in English. I'm going to be screen sharing to now show Mercy's slides. There we go.
Okay, thank you so much. I think I can just go straight away to the second slide. We did a research together with the farmers and the National Gene Bank of Kenya concerning the efficient methods of seed preservations that are used by Kenyan ethnic tribes in different counties of Kenya. Take me to the second slide, please. And
yeah, I'm sorry, I was just battling there to stop the previous slide. There we go.
Okay, thank you. So it was a mixed method research design where we incorporated different methods like doing the questionnaires, the interviews, experiments, and it was a participatory model that incorporated 400 farmers together with the staff and also a consultant from the National Gene Bank of Kenya. So from the next slide, you can see we have several pictures there showing how we were doing the data collection. And this was tested at farmers levels, and we had to test the viability and the germination percentages of the seeds that had been preserved by different methods from the farmers. Okay, can you take me to the next slide? So before we do the treatment of these seeds or how we preserve these seeds, first, these seeds have to be dried so well to a moisture content of less than 10%. And it only applies for the orthodox seeds category. This will not work for the recalcitrant seeds. And orthodox seeds categories are like the vegetable seeds, the legumes, the cereals, and so on. And we do the sun drying just to ensure that we reduce the moisture content. And then from the work we did, we were able to shoot videos and also to do a book or just to document everything on the local indigenous knowledge that is held by the indigenous people of Kenya. So next, we shall just be sharing a video on the various methods that are used by the indigenous ethnic tribes farmers to preserve their indigenous seeds. Okay, can we
has been dropped on the Dropbox, on the Google link, sorry, that I've mentioned earlier. So people can also retrieve it there. And I'll be sharing the brief extract that you mentioned that will really show people.
Mbegu every season. Naenda kwa mti ya popo, unatoa hii, unaikausha vizuri, unakuja unaishoma. There are easy materials to get nitaenda tu hapo kwa nini ya ng'ombe, nitoe samadi, nitengeneze. I'm 100% sure kwamba hii mbegu nikipanda itamea, na kama haitamea nitafuatilia nijue ni kwa nini haijamea.
For this farmer in Vihiga County, fine dust from locally made bricks works wonders.
Unachukua brick ambayo imeiva vizuri kabisa, unaibonda, unaishaga mpaka ikuwe laini kaa unga. Kisha kuwa laini kaa unga, sasa unaweza changanya na mbegu zako na ukaweka. Hata ikimaliza miaka 10, mbegu zako ziko safe.
Also in Vihiga, Tithonia diversifolia goes a long way in protecting local maize varieties from pests.
Huwa nachukua hii Tithonia leaves na katakata na igonga na iweka ndani ya maji for some minutes ili ile maji ishike ikue kong kabisa. Alafu unachukua mbegu zangu naosha nayo kabisa, naiosha, inarudi naichukua naanika kwa gunia. Hii local preservation yangu inachukua more than 5 years. Hauwezi pata imekuliwa.
Diatomite ash from the salty lake Elementaita in Gilgil, Nakuru has also proven helpful for farmers.
Unakuja unaipiga, alafu sasa hiyo mawe unaanza kucrush ndio iwe unga. Kichanganya kwa mbegu inakaa karibu hata miaka 5, kwa sababu hiyo jivu inazuia wadudu kuja kudunga hiyo mbegu.
Smoking over the fireplace remains one of the most preferred seed preservation methods for farmers across the country.
Mimi kama mama sasa mwenyewe mimi najiwekea mbegu, mimi siulize msee mbegu. Kazi yangu tu navuta analimia shamba.
Having healthy seeds at their convenience helps these farmers to plant on time when the rains come.
Thank you. From the video, we have been which is a mineral from Lake Elementaita, and this is just to interfere with the insect feeding and just to hinder the fungal pathogen growth. So it has worked and it's efficient for the Agikuyu community. We also have the red brick dust powder that is from the farmers in Vihiga, the Maragoli tribe. It's organic and it does not interfere with the soil pH because you don't want the chemical residue. Next slide. We had the Tithonia diversifolia. Apart from it having very good medicinal value, farmers have also shown it in the video that indeed you can soak it and it's to be a repellent because there is the smell that comes from the sap when the seeds have been dried, and that smell is just to repel away the insect pests. Yes, kindly the next slide. Then we also had the first method that had been shown from the video. We had the purple leaves, and the way purple leaves work is also the same way we use the Lantana camara leaves. This is also the botanical way. It's organic, and they crush the purple leaves, and separately you can also have the Lantana camara leaves. Once they are dry, you crush to obtain the green powder. So for hanging at a fireplace, it was common to most of the ethnic tribes in Kenya. And it was applicable for maize, sorghum, and millet. And it's efficient for preventing the weevils attack. And this was done specifically for the seeds that were to be planted for the next season, not necessarily for the grapes. and it's efficient, and it's currently being used widely by small-scale farmers in rural areas of Kenya. So we had, apart from the hanging at a fireplace, there is accumulated soot that comes from women who use firewood for cooking. So there is a soot that is dark black in color. After some period of time, a farmer is able to go and scrap off that black soot and mix it with the seeds. The soot and the ash works together because from the research, there is a silica component that will also interfere with the insect feeding. Also, the soot has a component of silica that will prevent egg laying and larval development of storage pests. Yeah, so there is some kind of repellent and it inhibits the growth. The next slide. We also have cow dung ash. Ash, we had the 3 categories. We had wood ash and we also had the cow dung ash. And the function is still the same. But even from the results that we got from the viability test, the cow dung ash, the germination rate for seeds preserved was a bit higher because it was very efficient in repellent. It was a repellent that kept away the storage pests. And also we have several seed storage structures. One of them is the clay pot. And from this picture, you can see we have a farmer and he has the seed stored in the clay pot, but at the lid, he has soldered it with the cow dung. Why? This cow dung will help to maintain to reduce the moisture content. And these clay pots are not just kept anywhere, but it's closer to, it's where we have the cooking place, around the fireplace, because heat loss in and outside, it's a bit varied. And it was common for the Luyas and Luo ethnic tribes. So it was very efficient.
Okay, Mercy, we have 2 minutes left, so let's make good time of it.
Okay. Then we also have the neem tree. Among the preservation methods, we had the neem tree, which were botanical, and also have the purple leaves, and you had the lantana camara leaves. So this can be used in a mixture, or you can still do the neem tree leaves independently. So you crush to get the green powder and mix it with your seeds. Next slide. I've talked about the wood ash before. It was also efficient as just the way we burn the cow dung ash, the same way you can use the wood ash that we collect from the fireplace. It was also efficient and still seeds can stay viable up to 4 years. And then the hot pepper chilies, this was applicable for traditional vegetable seeds. Because for traditional vegetable seeds, it's within a short period and farmers are taking back those seeds to the farms. So the chilies, we crush them and then mix it. Like here we have the African black nightshade, where they will mix with the hot pepper chilies, and it's just for a short period because we have the strong smell that repels the storage pests. So this is efficient for vegetable seeds only. Yeah. We have the storage structures. This is a mud silo, although it's not commonly at the moment, but most farmers are now using the clay pots and the gourds. I know we have interacted with gourds before, but the common one is this, the clay pots where the seeds are mixed and stored near a fireplace. Yeah, next slide. So this is just a summary of the feedback report from the samples that we took to the National Gene Bank of Kenya. And you can see after preserving these seeds for 12 months with the farmers, the germination percentage of the seeds preserved came to at least 85, 86, 80 out of 100%. This shows that these methods are efficient, and indeed this knowledge should be documented and be shared across for people to utilize it. And lastly, I will say, just to overcome the problems of soil health management and increase capacity of households, it's of great importance that we retain our indigenous knowledge that is free of any chemicals, and it will not hamper our microorganisms in soils, and we shall not have chemical residues in the grains that we consume, as well as the seeds that we plant. Yeah, so it's very important that we document all this knowledge across all ethnic tribes in Kenya and even beyond. That is the end of my presentation, and thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Mercy. These are the details of your network and your social media. I'll leave them on 2 seconds for people to see, but you can have access to this on the G Drive. This was a fantastic presentation, very rich in there was one relating to how do we replace plastic containers, and I think some of your slides spoke to that already. With no further ado, I would like to ask my third speaker to get ready to present. I'm going to be bringing up the PowerPoint. But before that, I would like to briefly tell you a little bit about Frederick Sanga. He will be telling us about community seed banks and how these operate, and in making a wide diversity of indigenous seeds available and in preserving them. So Frederick is an agronomist, and he has more than a decade of experience working with resource-challenged smallholder farmers in conserving plant genetic resources for food and agriculture, as well as in promoting a sustainable use. Frederick has contributed to the establishment of 4 community seed banks in Rumpi district, that is in Malawi, that are involved in the conservation of farmer crop varieties and increase access to locally adapted, good quality seeds for smallholder farmers. He has been involved in training smallholder farmers in collecting locally adapted farmer crop varieties. He's been driving farm evaluations, participatory variety selection. He's overseen seed selection and multiplication, as well as setting up the CSBs. Frederick is currently working for the Biodiversity Conservation Initiative. Let me put up your slide. Frederick, is your camera on? Can we see you?
Yes, it is on. I hope it's clear.
Yeah, sorry, I just need to close my previous slides. There you go. Can people see the seed bank slides?
Yes, I see it. You need to put
Community
it in
seed bank.
presentation mode. Yes, you've done it. Perfect.
Over to you, Frederick. Thanks, Charles.
Oui, c'est clair, nous voyons, c'est très clair.
Très bien. Allons-y. Thank you. Let's go.
Okay, thank you, Zasha. So diving straight into the presentation, community seed banks are locally governed and managed community collective approaches to conservation of plant genetic resources for food and agriculture. And these community seed banks, they contribute to the availability of diverse planting materials among farming communities. They have different purposes, but generally they are designed to conserve, restore, revitalize, strengthen, and improve farmer-led seed systems. The primary focus is on farmers' varieties, which are locally adapted, as well as crops which are underutilized and neglected. The community seed banks are very important because they help to empower smallholder farmers as well as communities to gain control over their seeds as well as plant genetic materials. Next slide. So there is a process on how to establish a community seed bank. So the first one is that you need to establish the interest as well as the knowledge of the farmers that are being targeted. So this can be done by conducting awareness raising meetings in the target community, where you invite women, men, the youth, who subsist on farming, who depend on farming for their livelihoods. It is also very important to involve key leaders in the communities as well as government extension. So you discuss the idea about establishing a community seed bank, you explain the concept to the farmers so that you help these farmers to decide. So once they decide that they need a community seed bank, then you go on to come up with like a temporary group of people who now lead the process of establishing that community seed bank. So there's need to develop a constitution which will have the objectives, rules, as well as rules and regulations that will be that will govern how to run that community seed bank. An external expert can help. Sorry for the background noise. An external expert can help the farmers to go through the process of establishing this constitution. After that constitution is in place, then you need to establish a management committee, a seed, gender, as well as management marketing committee. So the management committee is the overall committee for running the community seed bank, for day-to-day management of the community seed bank. While these other committees are technical committees. For example, the seed committee is a technical committee on seed. Then the gender is responsible for gender mainstreaming, and the marketing committee is responsible for marketing issues to ensure that the community seed bank is able to raise funds for running the community seed bank so that it is sustainable. Then you also need to have stationery for record keeping, which is very important, and there must be land. For a community seed bank, you are dealing with crops, so you need land that will be used for different purposes that we'll see as I proceed. Also, it is important to understand the land tenure issues. You need to have land which is permanently dedicated to a community seed bank, such that it won't be taken away and end up a community seed bank without land. Then you need to stock a community seed bank, so that can be done by conducting seed collection. You also need to multiply the collected materials and then facilitate exchange through seed loans. You also need to come up with income generation activities that will help these community seed banks to have funds for their daily learning. Then you also need to understand the local seed system, the actors who are involved in the seed supply chain. What are their laws? How do farmers access their seed? What are the challenges? That information will help you to design a community seed bank, which will help to solve some of the challenges that farmers face when it comes to accessing seed. Next slide. Then an important tool, which my Charles also touched on, is the 4-cell analysis tool. So this is a very important tool because you want to understand and assess the crop diversity in that area so that you use that information to do the corrections and also stock a community seed bank. So the tool that is used, we have used 4-cell analysis, but it has gone some changes. Now there is another cell which has been added. It's called now 5-cell analysis to look at the red list, those crops that have been lost from the farming communities. So you have got large area, many households, large area, few households. So they represent different levels of spread as well as abundance. For example, large area will tell you that this crop is abundant. The variety you are looking at is abundant in the community. When you are looking at number of households, it will also tell you whether it is spread in the community or not. If that crop has access, many farmers has that crop, then you tell you that it is common. So this tool is used for those who are into the process of establishing community seed bank to decide which varieties to collect, which varieties to multiply, which varieties to enhance, or which varieties to do a participatory variety collection. And after that, you also conduct collection mission, targeting those that are rare, some are unique, some are endangered, especially those that are falling under small area as well as few households, because these are facing extinction, they are endangered species. So this is a tool which will give you that information for you to decide which ones to collect. But for the purpose of a community seed bank, we collect all the materials because they're important to smallholder farmers. Next slide. Then the land that has been acquired by a community seed bank is used to establish a crop diversity block. So that crop diversity block is very important for rejuvenating the collected materials, multiplying them, for conducting research, whether you're introducing a new material, as well as for demonstrating the importance and the values of these materials, so that there are times a community can be invited to appreciate the materials that have been planted at a diversity block, maybe through a field day. Then the community will really understand the importance. Some of them will be resistant to pests and diseases. Some of them will be able to withstand dry conditions. So the community will really appreciate. So it's also a tool for raising awareness about the importance of these materials. Farmers come to work at a diversity block. So as they are working, they also exchange knowledge as well as practices. So the diversity block also help to protect the rich indigenous knowledge that farmers have. It is also a very important toolkit for extension, because then government extension staff or from civil society organization can meet these farmers as a group at a diversity block and then provide extension support to the farmers. It is also a plot which is used to promote ecological farming practices, so that at least these materials are grown on healthy soils and also using healthy practices. Next slide. Because a community seed bank is a bank for seed, it must have seed. So for a community seed bank to have seed, there must be some multiplication as well as quality control, because you want to make sure that farmers are accessing good quality seed. So you select farmers based on crop knowledge. Those that are willing to multiply seed, they have got land. You select them based on the enterprises, the crop enterprises that they know. For example, if a farmer is good at growing finger millet, then you want that farmer to multiply finger millet crop because it's well vested in that crop. Then it is also important to train the farmers that have been selected to multiply the seed. So they need to have basic knowledge in seed multiplication, in selection, control, as well as distribution. Then the group can also do participatory variety selection as well as investment, as indicated by Charles. The seed committee is very important technical committee, because it will be responsible for inspecting how seed is being multiplied, for taking records. Whatever material is going inside or leaving a community seed bank should be recorded. So this seed committee is very important as a technical committee of a community seed bank. Next.
We've got 2 minutes to round off.
Okay, quality control. Then you look at issues of land history. You have to consider issues of crop rotation. You don't have to repeat a crop that was planted previous season. For example, if Bambara nut was planted the last season, then this season you don't have to plant Bambara nut to avoid volunteer crops. Also, fertility of the land has to be checked. You need to multiply the materials on a fertile land. You look at isolation distance, because you want to make sure that you are controlling the genetic makeup of these materials, so there is no contamination. You need to remove off types to control the quality. These are volunteer crops that can contaminate the crop. So you remove them before they flower. You look at plant nutrition. When harvesting, make sure that the seeds are not damaged. You remove all the chaff that has been mixed with the seed. And on storage, make sure that the seeds are stored in good conditions. Need to control temperature as well as humidity. You need to do germination tests so that farmers are accessing good quality seed. Next, please. Then seed processing, you look at harvesting, threshing, drying, which is very important. You need to keep materials that have been dried to a reasonable level. So the good thing is most of the materials that are kept in community seed bank are orthodox seeds. You can dry them maybe below 12% moisture content, because these community seed banks do not have sophisticated materials. You need to clean, grade, treat the seeds so that you don't lose them due to pests. You need to label the storage materials as well as prepare for distribution. Next. So farmers, once all the seed bank has been stocked, then farmers will be able to access the seed. So they access seed based on loan interest. For example, most of our community seed banks, they give seed at 50% loan interest. For example, if a farmer gets 50 kg, then we'll pay back 100 kg. Then the community will request for seed farmers, and the seed committee will review and give seeds. And there will be agreements that will be signed by the person who is borrowing the seed and the community seed bank. So records have to be kept. The seed committee will be responsible for all the process. Then they also follow up the paying back during the paying back period of the seeds. So issues of trust are very important. Next. Yeah, then funding mechanism. So most of the community seed banks are funded by NGOs through external funding. Governments can also help community seed banks if they are well linked, because most of the governments have got national gene banks, and the national gene banks can work with these community seed banks as places for in situ conservation of these materials. Some, they generate income through membership fees where members pay, and also they generate income through selling the seeds. Next. Linkages are very important. These community seed banks, they need to be linked to national gene banks, which are mandated to conserve local adapted materials. You need participation of the youth, so schools are very important. Research institutions as well as the academia, which are very important in carrying out PPP and other practices, government extension staff, like-minded organizations, as well as the local leaders who will be the custodian of these local structures. Next. Yeah, so it is very important to conserve our own global diversity because they contribute to food and nutrition security. As you can see, very nutritious dishes, porridge from finger millet, as well as peanut butter. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Frederick, for the depth of the presentation that you have shared. There's lots of questions in the Q&A for our speakers. So I just want to direct our speakers to the Q&A box at the bottom of your screen. We're going to go and put a little poll up on the screen. So in the meantime, Charles, Mercy, where you feel you most able to contribute. Most of them are directly targeting a specific individual, and then we can discuss this further. So while you're busy doing that, I think it would be nice, Charles, to bring up a second poll, which we have designed to specifically tackle challenges inherent to community seed banks, because we feel it's quite an important a tool in preserving and making available seeds in Africa. But is it always easy? For the benefits of the Francophone colleagues as well? Is it local and technical knowledge on seeds? Item 2 is governance knowledge. Item 3 is financial viability, sustainability. Or is it the sustainability of the seed bank as an organization itself, which is a challenge? Or is the issue that of lack of government and policy support? So what is, in your view, the main challenge in running those successful community seed banks? And based on the answers there, we can perhaps invite a bit of discussion. We have 35% of respondents now. We'll let it run a few more seconds. If meanwhile our speakers can keep on, please going to the Q&A box and typing their responses to the participants. Okay, so we're going to let it run. While it's running, Charles, I think, do you want to gear up to provide the last technical input we have prepared for today? We wanted someone to speak about the inoculation of seeds and to prepare them optimally before planting. We did not secure a speaker, but we secured some very good learning materials. Charles, would you like to go ahead with that content?
Yeah, thanks a lot, Shasha. I'm going to share this video with us.
So, in the process of pelletization, we have required some items to be keep ready. So, first we need obviously seeds, and then Bijamrutam. So, it is a microbial inoculum, which is in the liquid form, which we will use that for a seed treatment. And then we need clay powder, clay soil powder, which is finely grounded, and it should be a good quality one. And then water we are required, and then Ganajivamrutam powder. So it's actually a microbial inoculum, which is in powder form. So, and then we required ash powder, and then a bowl to prepare all this process. So these are the items required to prepare pelletization, to do pelletization for the seeds we are looking into. So then we will see a video on this, how we have to do pelletization, and the entire process of pelletization can be seen in this video. Can you hear the audio, sir? Audio is fine?
Yes, fine, yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes, it's audible.
So these are the different types of seeds. Yeah. So one type of seed was taken. So these are cowpea seeds taken into a big bowl, and then we have to apply Bijamrutam. So that is Bijamrutam what you are seeing in the video. As we said, as I said before, Bijamrutam is a liquid form which is used for seed treatment. It is a combination of cow urine, cow dung liquid, and a lime. Everything was mixed into that, and it is entirely different process. So it is a readied Bijamrutam, what you are seeing now.
చూడండి అన్ని తడిసాయి కదా ఆ తెల్లటి విత్తనం కాస్త తడి అయినట్టు కనపడుతుంది
మీకు entirely until the complete seed get coated with that Bijamrutam liquid.
తేడా అట్లా చేయి పెట్టి తిప్పాల కొన్ని కలవవు బాబు మీరు అనుకుంటారు మీకు వచ్చు అనుకుంటున్నారు ఈ గుళికలు కానీ జాగ్రత్తగా చేయకపోతే సగం మొలిచి చచ్చిపోతాయి సగం మొలిచి
He's one CTIO sir who is working in the project. So he is the one who introduced this pelletization process into the APCNF process. So he is saying that it is a very crucial process and you have to carefully look into this. If you don't do this process carefully, the germination will be delayed, and half germinated seeds will be seen by you, and then it won't germinate entirely. So we have to do this process very crucially.
చచ్చిపోతాయి. పెలటైజేషన్ అనేది ఏదో మీరు ఆషామాషి అనుకుంటున్నారు. ఆషామాషి పని కాదు ఇది. ఇప్పుడు బీజామృతం కలిపి
So you can see the title. Clay soil is added and seed mix it thoroughly until the seeds gets mixed with the soil.
ఒక రైతు తన ఇది అదే అదే
We have to mix it multiple times until it get coated very finely. Which we have completely coated the seeds with clay powder, and then we are going to the second step. So in this we will use Ganajivamrutam, what we have seen earlier in the video in the items list. So Ganajivamrutam is a microbial inoculum which consists of crores of microorganisms, and now we are coating with Ganajivamrutam as a second layer. So that's what coming in the next step.
దగ్గర కుడి పక్కన పెట్టుకో, ఎందుకు అంత అక్షరాలు పడతావు?
So this is the Ganajivamrutam, which is finely coated one, and it's a mixture. So now we will use that as a second layer.
చిన్నగా ఇది ఇంకొద్దిగా వేయమ్మా. ఎంగజాలు లేమ్మా, ఎంగలే. ఇది మనం ఈ బూడిద వేయడం అనేది ఏమంటే పైన కోటింగ్ ఇది వేయడం వల్ల మనకు ఎక్కడన్నా పొరపాటున.
So these are the pelletized what you are seeing in the video. So last step he is telling that what we have used is ash. So this ash helps as a absorber of moisture. If there is any excess moisture present within the seed or in the clay, it absorbs that moisture. So we have to use this ash in a proper quantity. If we use more ash, then the entire moisture get absorbed by the ash, and the pelletized seed, the layers will get cracked. So it's not a good pelletized seed. So we have to use proper quantity. Only 1 or 2 layers, small quantity ash is to be used while preparing a pelletized seed. Sowing these pelletized seeds, we should not dibble these seeds more depth into the soil. So we have to sow the seeds between the 1 to 2 inches.
Okay, thank you very much. It's a long video, and I was rushing it. We have to end it there. I want to say briefly that I'm going to share the link to the Zoom recording that I made, but also the link to the entire YouTube video. This is available on the RIS website. So we are hearing from Mr. Hanumanth. Hanumanth works for the Andhra Pradesh Community Managed Natural Regeneration Program, APCNF, the biggest agroecology transition program we have heard about, coming to over 1 million farmers now. So he's told us the different ingredients to add: the bejamrotham, the fine clay, the water, the ganajimrotham, the ash, and all other things. So I'm going to share the details of how the ganajimrotham is made and how the bijamrotham are made, how they're prepared, what are the ingredients and what they contain in the chart, because we do not have much time here, so you can get more details about this. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Charles. Just for your info, I have, as you were presenting, dropped that information so that people could read about it as they were seeing the video. So if you can just drop the YouTube links for people's benefit, that would be great. But the rest of the tech info is already in the chat box in French and English. Thank you very much for that. You know, for lack of a better option, we ended up screening a technical presentation, but I think this was in the interest of time, because we managed in a very short amount of time to get a sense of what this process has been about, or what this process is about. I don't know if we've got experience in the room from people using the coating, l'enrobage, des semences, comme on dit en français, in Africa. Maybe someone from our committee wants to comment on that.
Thank you, Sasha. Actually, we are training farmers and also using seed pelleting and coating, and thanks to the video that has been shown, we were part of this training. And I'm based in Western Kenya. Ferdinand Wafula is my name, from Biogardening Innovations. And what we observe is that when you do the seed coating, you give you could preserve the seed very well in the seed bank, but then when you're taking it to the field before planting, it's also likely to get other field pests like birds and rats. And you can see that the change of color from the pelleting confuses the birds and the rats. It's not something that appears palatable for the field pests. Therefore, it is preserved while you do the planting. And then it also helps in providing some moisture, trapping some moisture, and also inoculating the soils around during germination, and enabling the plants to access some of the beneficial microorganisms. And starting that process very early in life enables the plants to absorb nutrients better. The Indian names that have been provided there on the video and Britain are actually inoculants, and the preparation of inoculants, I think, will be provided later, as Charles says. Thank you.
Thank you very much for this input. Very nice to hear a first-hand experience of applying these practices to Africa. So tracking back a little bit, we've got 15 minutes left, and we're always a bit pressed for time for the Q&A, which is, in my view, an equally important part of the webinars. So we're going to track back a bit and go back to the outcome of our poll, which is the seeds, the challenges to seeds management in terms of setting up a successful community seed bank. What came out of this poll, I think it's nice that people see the outcome, is essentially the salient issues being lack of government and policy support, and local and technical knowledge on seeds basically lacking. I think there are concerns about the sustainability of the seed bank as an organization. So I think bouncing off these questions as they directly pertain to seed banks, maybe we can take some questions that were asked about the community seed banks and make our way up. I see there's not been many typed answers by our speakers in the chat box. So we do undertake, if we don't respond to all of these now, to have all the responses to these questions captured in the final report of these webinar series. So do rest assured, content will come to you. I think pulling one of those maybe from Julie Matovu, Frederick, about the community seed banks, she was asking if perhaps there could be a connection made or even a transition made to PGS participatory guarantee systems for community certification. Would you like to comment on this one, perhaps specifically, Frederick? Frederick, if you're there, you would need to
Yes.
unmute. Yeah.
What was the question?
So the question is, so if you go to the Q&A box at the bottom of your screen, there's lots of questions there that we would need all three of you to please respond to. She is saying it is crucial the CSB are transformed into PGS for community certification. So basically making sure that the seed in question is basically organically certified. Do you have any experience of this?
I think where there are processes for organic certification, it should be possible. But in some setup, like in Malawi, we don't have certification currently. Maybe these guaranteed certification, maybe if possible, but currently we do not have a certification space. But if there is one, then it's also possible to do that. Yeah.
Thank you, Julie. Your hand is up. Maybe switch on your camera and be more specific.
System, when you look at what Frederick has shared, actually is you, that's what is included in the composition of a community seed bank. That is already similar to what the PGS at community level look like. So it's a matter of you understanding further what PGS are like, and then you incorporate it because it's a community-based certification system. It is not that a third party comes in to certify. So this is affirmation for our food sovereignty as a process. So it should be possible that even in Malawi you do this since you're already doing community seed bank. You just have to incorporate other stakeholders. Thank you.
I think that I don't know if it's really inviting for a response, but being a PGS practitioner, I just want to elaborate on the fact that a community seed bank can certainly serve not only as a additional structure to a PGS, or can be embedded within the function of a PGS, but it can be a very nice way of getting a PGS group going, because our organic farmers are often challenged by a lack of availability of seed. So linking them with the setting up of a CBS is a very relevant construct. So I don't know if anyone has experience of doing this within our participants. It would be nice to hear your views even in the chat on this. Is there any specific hand up while we're on the community seed bank discussion? Otherwise, I will take some from the chat box. So if you have any question, please put your hand up. I think there was something linked now, maybe speaking to Charles about the community diversity. A question asked by Tsungai was, who maintains the register of community diversity? What are the provisions, checks for a crop or variety to be listed on the register? Very relevant question, Charles, if you want to dive in.
The register is just part of the whole system of documenting the diversity that is in the community. Now, the register itself is not complex because it's actually done by the farmers themselves. So it's supposed to, for each plant, the plant name and what it's used for, and some information which shows whether this is something under threat. Identifies the different plants and what the plants are used for. And this, like I said, is while I'm on the floor, can I just quickly address one issue on these containers used for seed?
Please go ahead, Charles.
Yes, I think you've seen that in all these plastic containers tend to be common. The reason is not because of lack of knowledge about how these are not the ideal. In terms of storage materials, plastic is actually the worst, but it's also the cheapest. I mean, compared to other means of storage, it's so cheap, it's almost free. That's the only reason. Ideally, you'd want to store this seed in either glass or aluminium. I think aluminium is becoming cheaper by the time, and it may be possible in the future that storage is done in aluminium. However, having said this about plastic, you will notice that from Mercy's presentation, she kept referring to the seed than even the temperature, the moisture and humidity. And so even using a plastic container, when you put in the way she was showing, demonstrating use of, I think it was cow dung, that tends to help absorb some of the excess moisture, and so that, because in many cases plastic creates quite a lot of humidity, which then translates into heat. So yeah, basically that's all I can say about plastic. It's not a good container, but at the same time, for short storage periods from one season to another, and maybe a few years, it's possible to maintain the seed there.
Thank you, Charles. I think bouncing off your inputs, and thank you for addressing the question there. Can we invite Mercy, your views on the subject matter? Perhaps adding to this a question that was asked by Marianne Basset, with asking for some specific information about the use of clay pots as a storage facility, and our participants, the distinction between solar drying and sun drying. If perhaps you can speak to this. Thanks, Mercy.
Okay, let me respond. I want also to comment from the question that Charles responded to. First, we try to test using the three materials. We have the plastics, and you also have the glass, and you also have the pots. In terms of and the second one that performed so well was glass bottles, and then the third one was the plastic. So seed interference or loss of viability is so much in plastic bottles, and the best was the pots. And just storing, when you look at the structure of a clay pot, the material in it, variability of heat is not so much as compared to the plastic. Like when it's so hot for the plastic, the temperature the environment. When it is too hot or it's too cold, likely there is no interference or rising or losing of temperatures within a clay pot. So the material structure for the pots performs so efficiently. And to add on that, in our tests, most of these clay pots, they are put around the fireplace, where we have the cooking stones, and they are using the firewood to cook. most of these clay pots are put around. They are not likely that this fire is used for heating the pots, but it's because of the warmth around there still, it will not affect the heat in the pot, yes, but if it's in a colder place, the farmers believe somehow an interference can come in. But when it is around the fireplace, also monitoring of the seed stored, because look at the quantities. What goes into the clay pot may not be the same quantity of seeds that may go in a mud silo or in a gourd. So when you look at storing the pots around the fireplace, farmers said like monitoring of that storage material becomes a bit easier, and having that they were soldered with cow dung at the topmost part. We don't want any kind of some entry, because you know the necessity materials for germination, conditions for germination is air, water, and warmth. So if you're leaving this pot open all the time, it means you're allowing maybe the variable conditions that can first what we got. And then also on solar drying and sun drying, I will say that in general, this can be used by all farmers, but there is a difference between storing a grain and storing a seed. For grain, it is something that one can consume after, but for seed, it is what you want to plant later. So you have to ensure that when you are keeping a seed, the embryo has to stay alive. Like the radical part and the plumule part has not to be interfered. The difference comes to the temperatures that you are exposing the seed. So for seed that you want to plant next, you should not put it at a very high temperatures, like in open sun. That one, it is good for grain, what you'll use for food. But for seed, you have to do it at an enclosed area whereby there is no direct sun rays to the seed that you want to replant. I don't know if I'm very clear on that, but it applies for both. But for seed, it will do well when you do it at an enclosed area, not direct sun rays to the seed that you want to plant next, because direct sun rays will kill the embryos. So we have a test of both. We have done for solanization, and we also have done for sun drying. For sun drying, sometimes farmers are not so keen because the temperatures might be so high that they kill the embryo. So the farmer is keeping the seed, but as he's keeping the seed, he has already killed the embryo. At planting time, the seeds are not having high germination percentage. Yes, that's what I can share.
Yes,
Thank you.
Mercy, thank you very much. I really love how you have been the direct conduct, the channel of farmer-based knowledge. So I think this is really for me what this series are about. Thank you very much for this. Is there any other input from our speakers on this? Is there any question before we part that one of the speakers wanted to respond to?
Sorry, Charles, I have another meeting with AFSA in 20 minutes.
Hear from Julie about you know, what we've done with now preserving seed diversity. Might there be consideration in doing the same in terms of maintaining animal breeds diversity? I think this is a very nice suggestion to be considered in terms of the future knowledge shares. Before people leave the room, I'm sorry we can't have more. Yes,
Shasha, yeah, we're gonna take a few more minutes to wrap up, but we would like to release the interpreter. So very sorry for our francophones in the very last few minutes.
I can do 5 minutes, no problem.
Okay,
But
okay,
it has to be quick because I've got the other Charles breathing down my neck.
We can't ask them to make more time. So thank you very much, Ludo. We know you do fantastic interpretation for us. I can run the wrap-up in both French and English. Before we leave, we're gonna drop a little policy level question asking how poser en français et en anglais pour avoir un peu vos retours par rapport à ce qu'on peut faire en matière d'intervention politique. C'est toujours bien d'avoir voilà, les positionnements et les suggestions des participants pour aiguiller le travail d'AFSA. So this is really relevant for AFSA to be able to orientate its work at the policy and at an advocacy level. I'm just going to screen share a last slide showing everybody when our next session is going to be so that you can diarize this, because I know there was a question in the chat about how frequent our meetings are. So the meetings are run bi-weekly, and our next session will be on managing on-farm trials through participatory action research. So how does one go about setting up efficacy trials on bio-inputs and other agroecological technologies? Avant de se quitter, je veux juste partager avec vous la date de notre prochaine session qui aura lieu le 24 novembre, qui porte sur la gestion des essais à la ferme et comment cette recherche-action participative peut être menée à travers la mise en place d'essais d'efficacité sur les entrants biologiques et autres technologies agroécologiques. So this will be on the 24th of November, 2023, same time. Please diarize, and because she is in the room and I love hearing Marianne's dynamic and enthusiastic voice. Marianne, can I ask you to formally close this meeting for us?
Sorry, Steve, Shasha. Yeah, we have 15 healthy soil, healthy food centers across the world, but I'll talk about quickly the centers we have in Kenya. We have a center in Uganda, in Tanzania. We have centers in Senegal, in Togo, in Burkina Faso.
And did you want to mention who's in the room?
Oh, sorry, is my network not working?
We lost you a minute.
Sorry. I think, yeah, so I think I'll just share this in the report. I was just saying that we have centers across the world, healthy food centers. And I just said that we have centers in Southern Africa, like Stefan said at the beginning, but also we have centers in East Africa, in Uganda, Kenya, Tanzania. We have centers in West Africa, Togo, Burkina Faso, and Senegal. So in case you are in those countries and you want to connect, I've shared the 2 links in the chat. One is for registering your participation in this meeting, and the other one is for joining a very big WhatsApp group we have set up to facilitate this discussion. So the discussion doesn't end now, though the webinar will be ending now. So go ahead, Shasha.
Ok, thank you. Et juste pour les francophones, ce que Charles vient de dire, c'est que on va participer, on va échanger avec vous la liste des différents centres qui portent sur cette initiative. Et si vous nous transférez vos détails dans le Kobo Toolbox, le lien qu'on vous a transmis, on vous donnera ces détails. And we see the request to share materials on the WhatsApp chat. We will be sharing these, the recording as well as the presentations will be uploaded there again. Charles, are you happy we've covered all the final protocol?
Yeah, I'm happy. You wanted someone to close? Did you?
Yes, I wanted to invite Marianne to close.
Yes, sure.
If you're happy to, Marianne, I'm putting you a bit on the spot.
Thank you so much, everyone, again. This has been very inspiring. Mind-blowing alternatives from all over the world. I mean, nature, we have everything in nature to do just what we want. We don't need to grow our food with poison, with the glyphosate they are turning out right now. So thank you to all the presenters. Thank you to such a wonderful facilitator. Thank you to the interpreters who made this meeting very possible. I want to thank also the past chair of AFSA who made time to be here, Chris Makolo. I want to also thank John Wilson, who has always been very supportive. I've seen Madam Elizabeth Atanaga. I've seen Meja, the very good people who have joined us, and Father Chika, I mean, a cross-section of different people joining this wonderful, informative, and inspiring webinar. Thank you, everyone who has made time to come. And please, let's keep this conversation open. Please be free to get in touch with us, get in touch with the presenters. This is an ongoing process for us to learn, and perhaps another world is possible where we can change the narrative. We should be able to tell our stories. Thank you, thank you, thank you so much, and have a very wonderful weekend ahead. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Marianne. Thank you, everyone. See you soon.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Bye.